Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Petra, and today is a special day. It has been a long time coming. If you've ever dreamt of creating stunning ball gowns like this, you are in the right place. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future tutorials, okay? With your support, I hope I'll be able to keep up posting new tutorials regularly for you. In my very first lesson, I will be sharing with you here. I'm going to be teaching a very detailed lesson on drafting a very full ball wedding skirt using tulle. If you are interested in this, keep on watching. Are you ready? Let us begin. Welcome to this course. This course will just expose you to ways that you can make a ball dress using tulle to make fuller ball dresses, longer tail, longer volume, in case you're having issues making all of this. This is like a starter course to help you make those beautiful, luxurious, simple, affordable wedding dresses, ball dresses that you see. So this course, I'll be showing you, outlining the things that you will learn in this class. So you learn how to make the tulle skirts, how to give it a volume, a very long length with tail at the back. You also learn the steps, how to layer all of this in and get your desired results. It depends on the fullness you want. I'll be showing you the fabrics that we're using in this class. But before I move on to show you the fabrics, what we'll be doing is I'll be calculating the measurements and everything you require to make the tulle skirt, starting from the tulle itself. So there are different layers. The first layer, which you see, is the tulle, but underneath the tulle you have to use a doll face fabric, and then underneath the doll face fabric you have to use your lining, and this your lining will come with a hard net, so you have to layer hard net on top of this lining, so this will go together. So this means that your skirt will have 3 layers, and then if you decide, you can decide to wear a petticoat on it. So your petticoat will be the last layer. This is one, this will come first, this will come second, these two will go together, and then your petticoat. And then you can decide to skip this and just do these 3 if you do not want it really full. But if you want it very full, then you can use your petticoat. So the calculations for this is what we'll be doing now, and then we'll go on and place it on the different fabrics that we'll be using, and you can sew. So it's very easy, but first let me show you the materials that we'll be needing for this class. You're welcome, and I want to show you the materials, the basic materials that you'll be using. You don't need too much, but you need the basics. So first, you know, we have our pattern paper for drafting. I usually like you to draft your pattern so that you can always use it to cut any ball skirt you want to cut, instead of cutting directly to the fabric. And then we'll have our tulle. So our tulle, we can use up to 50 yards, 60 yards, depends on your preference. But to get a really full skirt, you need up to 50 yards. Now, if you notice, this tulle is kind of in between the high grade and the medium grade. The netting is really tiny, so this will give a fuller volume. Those that have wide spacings of net usually isn't fine for this kind of skirt, so you need something that has a wide netting. So we're also going to be using our hard nets. This hard net is what we are going to attach to our lining. So this lining is called the polyester lining. It's not your regular lining, but this is like rubber. It's light so that it doesn't give too much weight to the dress. So I'm using these two on top of this. So this is the last layer. That is, if you are using the petticoat, your petticoat will be worn separately, and this will be the last layer on the dress. So this is what will be used to turn the finishing around the hem of the upper bodice. And then we'll be using our doll face. Remember, our doll face has to be matching color with your fabric. So this doll face, I think you need about 7 yards. Doesn't have to be so much. So this one, you need your doll face. And then you need, so that's the fabric. You need your net, you need your polyester lining, you need your hard net and your doll face. And for the hemming of the under part of the dress, you need your crinoline. This crinoline you can use to hem to give you that flounce effect. You can decide to use your lace borders under the tulle skirt or leave it like that. 7 yards of our doll face. We're using about 6 yards of our polyester lining. Our hard net, we're not using more than 6-7 yards. You can use more if you want to be really full, so that you don't need the petticoats. And then you need your polyester lining if you are making your petticoat yourself, and a metal boning if you are making your petticoat yourself. So I'll drop some of these pictures on video so that you also see what I am talking about. So this pattern paper, I'm going to be using it to draft our net, which is our first panel. We're going to use to draft our silk, which is after the net. We're going to use to draft our polyester lining, which is the last layer. So pretty much your silk and your polyester lining has the same cotton. Okay, so but first let's draft our tulle, which is the first layer. Now what gives you the fullness that you see is that you have to draft so many panels. So one panel combine so many panels together. So you can use up to 15 panels for both front and back. You can use up to 20, depends on what you want. But since we are using about 50 yards for this, I do not want to use more than 10 to 12 panels. If I discover I still have more fabrics when I finish cutting, I can add more panels. But assuming this is our fabric and we're cutting on fold, so assume this pattern paper is cut on fold so that it's easier for you to manage. And the bottom, first of all, the length. Now the front, because we want tail at the back, so the back will be longer than the front. So the front, we can say the front, we want it to be 55 inches, and then we can say we want the back to be as long as 90, 100, 110, it depends. And mind you, are using a tulle of by 60. So it means that if you are placing this on your tulle, you are going to be cutting following the yardage. So let's say this is a fabric, let's say this is the length, so you know that your length is by 60. So let's say this is the length of this fabric, which is by 60. We're assuming this is by 60, and yet let's say horizontal now, like this is the yardage of the fabric. So we're using our yardage to take the length. So that's why you can take as many lengths as you like. So what this simply means is you'll be getting more yards, depends on the length that you're getting. So if we say, for instance, we want our tail to be 90 inches. So what this simply means is you're taking 90 inches into your yards. So if you have to divide 90 by 36, so you know that you have to use over 2 yards. So let's say about 2.5 yards per panel. So you know your width is by 60. So your width will now be the width of each panel. That is the bottom circumference of each panel, because you can't control this because it's by 60. And of course, because we are taking it in panels, you do not need by 6 more than 60 in width for the bottom, because if you have more than 60, it means that you do not need so many joinings. So as I said, we may have up to 10 panels, up to 12. It depends on how full you want this dress to be. So we're assuming this is 60, so we're cutting on fold. So on fold will be 30. So this is the width of each of our panel, and then the length. So you can decide to cut the front length first. So if you say you want your front length to be 60, you just come and mark 60. And then for your back, what you just do is extend the back length. So you have to divide this 10. Let's say we want 10 panels. So you say usually the front should be a little bit fuller than the back. So you say you want 6 panels for the front and 4 panels for the back. If you want 12, you can share it and say 7 for the front and the others for the back. You can also make it equal, but when you are gathering the waist, then you can kind of give more volume to the front and less to the back. But however, you have to know how many to cut the back, how many panels, because the length of the back is going to be different for the front. So it means if we are doing 6 for front, 4 for back, what this simply means we are cutting 6 with 60 inches length and 4 with 90 inches length. And then the circumference for each panel, which is 30 unfold, will still be the same thing. So if we say we have measured 60, we just go ahead and mark the waist, which is 60. Sorry, the waist point, the waist measurement. And then I can then just move on and say the waist. So let's say the waist of this person is 32. So that means front will be 16, back will be 16. And if the waist is 32 and you're saying you want 10 panels, 32, and you're saying you want 10 panels, that's about 3.2 for each panel. But because you are using tulle, if you are using another fabric that has volume, you can just decide to multiply this by 2, by 3, or by 4. But since you are using tulle, you can decide to increase it by, say, 7, so that you have more gathers. So that's 3.2. You can say you want to make it, no, not 7, because if you say 7, that means you are making your waist 21, and then which will almost be the same with the circumference of the bottom. You want it to really, the difference to be much, so that your A shape will come out well. So I can say instead of 3.2, I want to make it 15. Each panel to be 15. Now just come and connect to the bottom. So if you do not have a long or wide table, you can just cut this on the floor. And just go in a little so that you can get a good curve. You don't want this edge too sharp. And you have your waist like this. So this is one panel. So what this simply means is, if we are using 60 for the front and we're cutting 6 panels, and we say 60 is a little less than 2 yards, I think if you say 36 divide 60, you already have 1 yard out, and then you have about 24. Yes, you have about 24 left. So it's almost 2 yards, but it's more than 1.5 yards. So let's say we're using, let's just calculate it to 1.5 yards. Let's say we're using 1.5 yards for each panel. So it means that for the front, you are using almost 9 yards for the front. And then for the back, if you say you want 4 panels and it's 90, so let's say 2.5. So it means that you are using 10 yards for the back, which is 9 plus 10, which will be 19 yards. And I can decide to add more. So this one I have just said is just the basic. So because I said I want to use 50 yards, so I know that I have to increase my panels to 20. So the more you have it, the fuller it will be. So if I've estimated 20 yards for 10 panels, so it means I should be working with 20 panels and more. So the fuller your panel is, the better for you, or the fuller your skirt is, the more beautiful it will be, because you have more gathers. So you can then go ahead and just cut this, and you're going to cut, if you have said you have calculated your yardage and you have said that, okay, I want times 2 of this 6 that I have said I will use for the front, I want 12. So you go ahead and cut 12. If you have said your back, you want 4 and you have doubled this, you go ahead and cut 8 for the back. So what this means is there's no one rule for this. It depends on the number of yardage that you have. But I usually recommend to get this kind of volume, you don't use anything less than 50 yards, so exhaust your 50 yards. And a good way to cut this kind of thing is with your tool, so that you can cut all at the same time and you can be fast. You just get someone or get hands to help you fold this tool following the length. So you fold it into the yardage, so you can fold up to 30 yards at once, and then place your pattern paper on top of it and cut once. Because tool is lightweight, it will be so difficult to cut. So you can cut the whole of the front ones and then cut the whole of the back one, so that you don't have to be cutting one panel on top of each how many times. So that will take you a lot of time. So just fold your tool as many times into 60 inches, fold, repeat like that. If it's 12 panels, fold up to 12 times. And remember, this is on fold, so when it opens up, it will be very wide. And then your waist, you're going to gather your waist back to the 3.2 that we have said each panel waist to be. So at the end of the day, by the time you gather everything, you shall make sure that your waist is going back to the 32 inches, and then you can start your journey to having a very full skirt. So that's for the tool. And before we cut this pattern, we'll also be demonstrating how to cut the silk and how to cut the polyester lining. Now for your polyester lining, first, the length, there's no tail on your polyester lining. It has to be equal all around. The back has to be equal with the front, and it has to be shorter than the length of the front. So your length is 60 inches, so you can make your polyester lining about 10 inches shorter. So let's say you're working with 50, and for the polyester lining, what you are doing is you are cutting 2 panels, 1 for the front, 2 for the back. So the joining at the back, or you can say 2, 1 for the front, 1 for the back, but you know you're going to divide the back, and the back is going to be 2 at the end of the day. And you can say it depends on how full your skirt is. So if you want your skirt to be really full, you're going to be using a very big petticoat. All you need to do is to make sure you give a very wide volume at the bottom of your polyester lining as well as your silk. You want to do this because you don't want the polyester lining or the silk hanging on the petticoat. So you want it to really take the petticoat well and drop on the petticoat. So for your polyester lining, you can still say you want up to, it depends on your petticoat, but normally the standard, your polyester lining or your silk should not be less than 90 inches for the front. It can be 80, but it should not be less than 90 if you are using a big petticoat. So that means on fold, the 90 on fold will be 40. So it's the same thing while doing. Again, you can decide you don't want to follow this method for your polyester lining. Instead, let's say this is your fabric. Let's say you have folded in 180, the way you cut your 180 flare like this. So let's just say like this. Let's follow it this way. So that you don't need to measure the width of this. All you do is measure the waist. So if the waist is 32, for instance, you just take out, you divide, because you are cutting in 2, so you are cutting just front. So you say 16, and then you increase it a bit. You can just make it 25. And 25 on fold is 12 and a half. So let's say the waist will be 12 and a half. And then you can just connect so that you can get a circle here. That way you don't have to start measuring the width of your petticoat. You are sure this volume will size the petticoat. But however, if you want to follow it in the straight format, which will cut the tool while we're drafting. So you try not to make sure it's not less than 90, so that's 90 front, 90 back. That will be 180. So you are sure 180 will size your petticoat. So if you say 90 on 4, so let's say this is 45, and then you do the same thing, 50 inches for the length, and you mark, and then you get your waist out. So you say your waist is you're making each 25, front 25, back 25, so that you can gather. Then you connect the same way, like that, to the waist. So you have one of this, and then you have another of this at the back, and you share the back into two. So that means they'll be joining at the side of your silk lining, and then for your polyester lining, and then it will be the same thing for your silk as well, although you can make your silk a little more than your polyester lining. So if you're or you can make it the same. So if it's 90, you can decide to increase it a bit or less, or if you are cutting in your 180 degree pattern flared, where you cut your flare, you don't need to measure the bottom, just get your waist. You are sure the bottom circumference will always be more than that 90. So that's just it. So after drafting this, you can use this same one to cut your silk. You can use this same pattern to cut your silk. So you are using one pattern to cut your silk and your, which is your doll face and your polyester lining, while the one at the back, which is for your main fabric, that is your tool, you can use it to cut your tool. Now, so remember, for this doll face and the polyester lining, you have just two panels, one for the front, two for the back. So the one for the back, you're sharing it in two, the same with your polyester lining. But for your tool, you have so many layers, as much as 20, and so on and so forth. So after taking this, you take your tool and cut. You also take your pattern, cut, place on your polyester lining, place on your doll face and cut. Then you can start joining. But first of all, you have your hard net, which you are going to place on your polyester lining. So your doll face, all you need to do is just to hem the bottom. But however, your polyester lining, you have to put your hard net on it after cutting. So I'll show you a sample of how you are going to work with your hard nets and your polyester lining. Okay, so this is the one I have cut. So I have joined this side. Remember, there are two panels. There's a joining at this side. This is joining from side to side, and this is the back. So after joining your sides, before you join the back, you have to take your hard net. So I'll just show you like this. You have to take your hard net and put it up to 4 layers. So this is 1 layer, the hard net doubled. This is 2, this is 3. But this is 3 layers, but you can decide to make yours closer if you have more hard net and your gathers or your pleats fuller. Now this is done by just leaving 9 inches from the waist. This is the waist. So at the end, we're going to gather this waist back to the dress to give it some volume. So you leave 9 inches, because this 9 inches left, either your lacing or your zip or whatever you're going to put is going to be attached here. So from 9, you just calculate and say okay, from 9 you just say length. Remember, you said 50, so 50 minus 9 will be 41. So you divide 41 if you're going to be doing 3 layers in 3, so that you know the spacing to put this. and then when you're done, you just hem the bottom of your polyester lining. It is before then, after then you go ahead and join the back, and then your polyester lining is ready. So this is the last layer of the dress. This one will go underneath the this is the one that will go and turn the dress inside to hide the seams, and then your doll face will be attached to the ball skirts. So with this explanation, I will get to sewing machine, and all of this I've explained, I'm going to do it and come back and show you our final work. Now I have joined all my panels together. So as you can see, we have so many joinings here, but the beautiful thing about this technique is you cannot even see if this thing was joined or not. You can see the way it's flowing and the way it's just giving a beautiful effect, an umbrella like fullness and everything intact. So I have gathered this back to the 32 inches waist, and you can see I finished my bottom with crinoline. And then you can decide if you want to give it a really beautiful luxurious look. Use like embellishing or something, or place on it. And then this is the first layer. So you see what I did, I also put another layer of tulle, but this time around there was no joining on this second layer, and it was cut straight. I just gathered it and cut it straight, and that was it. I just wanted to give a fuller effect under. And then you can see my silk, there's a little gathering on it, and I just hemmed the bottom of this, and that is it. And you can see my last layer, which is this polyester crinoline with my net gathered on it. And then I wore a petticoat on this. Now this is just one. You can decide not to wear a petticoat on this. Now if you do not want to wear a petticoat on this, make your net, this one, make it more close together, use a harder net, and it will still be almost as full, because there's a lot of nets that went into the first layer. So I'll turn the back. I'll turn over to the back so that you see the tail. Now remember, no matter how long you want your tail to be, you can achieve it. So that's the tail. You can see how full and how long our tail is, with just by 60 inches length of tulle. You don't even need by 20 inches to get this. And I also want you to take note that this silk, our doll face, has a little tail. Remember I said that when cutting your polyester crinoline, it has to be one length all through, but your silk can have a little tail so that it can flow with the tulle as well. And remember, you can increase this if you want more, but I think this is fine and this is sufficient. And I have gone ahead and attached everything to the waist. Everything I have attached to the waist. All I will just need to do when I'm turning to my bodies, this polyester crinoline, this last layer, what I will do is I will turn it the other way so that it hides the seam. I'm sure I'm talking to people who can already sew, experienced dressmakers already, so you understand what I mean by hiding it so that the waist, the roughness of the waist will not show. So this is basically, so I'm still working on my upper bodies. When I'm done, I'll come and wear it on this and embellish it. Come back to this concluding part of our ball dress. So you can see we are done with the embellishing and everything, and you can see how this dress flows and how it's just sitting right now. The petticoat we're putting is quite big, but even without the petticoat, or even with a moderate size petticoat, it will still come out looking almost as full as this, because of the layers and of the layers of the hard net that we had put. So you can see the tail of this dress. One thing I want to take note of is the tail didn't start just right at the side. The tail came towards the side front. close to the dark line, so you can see the tail is starting from here. So what this means is after I joined the front, remember we call the front length 60 and the back 90. So after I join, you can see this joining here, I just curved so that it will give a blend transition between the front and the back, and I just curved and it went like this throughout the back. Same with the other side, okay, so that it doesn't look too sharp. It's just starting from one side of close to the back, so I tilted it towards the front a bit. Now all you need to do is just shaping this before you start putting your crinoline, and that's it basically. You see, when you get to work, when you practice, you see how easy it is to make a ball dress as this. So I will go on to finish anything that I have not tacked. I will tack. Okay, you see the sleeves, I had tacked the patch or the panels from this to this kind of blending it. So in this fabric I had used 1, 2, 3 different fabrics, and then of course our tool. And I think I did mention at the beginning that we use about close to 50 yards for the tool.